I'm going to give you a 3-step process for optimizing your podcast so that you're constantly improving, you're constantly attracting the right people, and you're actually achieving your aims. I'm going to walk you through our 3-step process for optimizing your podcast to make sure it's doing what you want, when you want, and how you want. It's pretty simple, and I call it the 3M system. Okay, I developed this system in my previous business when I was dealing a lot with weight loss and fitness, and I think it's really relevant in anything that you do that you want to improve and optimize. So the first thing, I just want you to kind of imagine that you record your podcast, you spend ages doing it, planning it, coming up with it, sorting your lighting out, making sure you've got the right equipment, getting your guest in the right place at the right time, prompt them with a few questions, do a bit of research on the background so you absolutely nail the episode, and then you just kick it out the door and pay it no attention after that. Just let it do whatever it does, and you've got no idea whether it's succeeded, whether it's doing well, whether it's a flop, and you just have got no idea of how to improve it in the future. Now, that would be pretty crap. Now, you can avoid that, but the first thing that you want to do is you want to come up with some way of measuring what is happening within your video, within your podcast. Now, YouTube really, really helps you with this. YouTube gives you some killer data, more data than you can probably ever use. I'm not going to go into the actual bits of data you should concentrate on right now. Okay, but even if you just look at the number of views you're getting, or if you're uploading to a podcasting platform, Spotify or something, Apple's podcasts, even if you just look at the number of downloads you're getting, okay, it's going to give you something to measure. And the key thing is if we can measure it, we can improve it. All right. So just start off and just capture some of those numbers. And as you get more confident, you'll suddenly go, okay, right, well, now I'm going to look at what's happening within the first 5 seconds of the episode. Or now I'm going to look at, how many people are watching all the way to the end, or how many people are commenting, how many people are giving the thumbs up. So many bits of data, okay, but the key thing is you start measuring. Now, my advice is that you just launch your podcast on YouTube, okay, and it'll give you all that data. It really is one of the best ways that you can distribute your content. That said, if you aren't quite doing a video or podcast yet, then you can still get some decent data from whichever podcast and hosting platform you use. Okay, but the key thing is just start looking at it and just start using it. So that's the first one, measure. Once we run that, okay, what we want to do is we just want to monitor. We want to monitor what is going on. There's a couple of reasons for this. I want you to get in the habit of monitoring, because in the future, when you're a bit more advanced, you'll realize that different thumbnails or different titles can have a different effect in the market. So, for example, you can put out one episode with one title and perhaps get half a dozen views or just a few hundred views or whatever. Change the title slightly, and sometimes just by one word, and it can have a massive effect. And all of a sudden you get thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views, because a title, a thumbnail is that powerful and that important. So you want to be able to monitor that, especially in the first hour of you publishing your episode. And certainly for the first day as well. What YouTube will do is it will test your video, your episode with a slice of your audience. And if it does well, it'll then send it out to a few more people. And it's normal to have peaks and troughs. And all of a sudden, YouTube will pick up a video and start sharing it again as weird stuff happens. So you're going to want to monitor it in those first few days so that you can kind of react and you can kind of see, like, what is your normal? What is your baseline for when you send out an episode? Because then you can start to see when things are going really, really well. And you can start to see when things are going really wrong, and from that, you've then got some information to make a decision on. And that's the third part of this process. You've then got the ability to modify what you're doing. You might find your introductions are not very strong. You need a stronger hook to keep people watching. You might find that there's a segment within your video where people start to skip forward or they're switching off completely. And what happened there? What happened to cause them to jump off the video and or skip forward? Was you talking about something that was off topic, or did you make a crack like an in joke that just you and your guest understood and it kind of made them feel a bit weird? Maybe the sound dropped out or the lighting weren't quite right. There's just so many things that could happen. But if you look at where there's a difference in your baseline, you can then start to adapt what you're doing and improve it. It might be that you actually do something new. One of the things where we learned this lesson is, so we used to do this like interviews with rugby players and people involved in rugby. Just for a bit of fun, we introduced a prediction video where we'd predict the results of the games that were coming up at the weekend. When we looked at the data, we could see that actually this was a part of the podcast that the viewers were really engaged with. And some people had actually come back and watched it again. So we thought, maybe we should strip that out and use that as a standalone video. Fast forward 12 months, and that's now the most popular video series we've ever done. Now, we wouldn't have ever found that if we hadn't have been monitoring what was going on and kind of measuring it, and then just had that data to be able to make a decision to help the podcast grow. And I'm pretty sure, whatever podcast you start on day one, it'll look very, very different in 2 years' time. So just make sure that you are measuring, you're monitoring, and that will give you the ability to modify the next time you record. And then just to finish off the process, you just keep going around. So every time you publish, you're measuring, you're monitoring, you're modifying, you're measuring, you're monitoring, and you're modifying. Okay, and that is how you improve. And you can apply this to lots of different aspects of, and maybe even each individual stage of creating a podcast. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a recap. So remember, when you launch your video, make sure that you've got some way of measuring how the video is going to go down. Like I said, YouTube does a great job at that. Make sure that you're monitoring it so that you can work out what your baseline is when you're producing your podcast and you're launching your podcast, so you can get an idea of what's the normal. And a little bit like in the military, you're constantly looking for the absence of the normal and the presence of the abnormal. That, in essence, is change. Okay, so we need to see where we get the change and be able to monitor that in order to improve. And that's the modify aspect of this process. So measure, monitor, modify. Let me know how you get on with this. And if you need any help, remember, myself and Carl are here all the time to offer a little bit of help that can actually make this whole process quicker, easier, and better.